Welcome to the Drop the Needle podcast, your backstage pass to the mystical realm. I'm your host, Jim Allstott, and here, gifted souls step up to the mic sharing their spiritual journey. We're hitting the high notes and the low notes of their awakening, creating a symphony of enlightenment. This isn't just another interview show. This is where divine insights are channeled and universal truths are revealed. So crank up your stereo and sit back, because who knows, this just might help you compose the next transformative chapter of your soul's purpose. Are you ready? Let's go. I'm Jim Allstott, and this is the Drop the Needle podcast. My guest today is the founder of Soul Love and author of the Soul Love Journal, a woman who turned her own experience of grief, loss, and healing into a gift for the rest of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carolyn Sidgwick. Welcome, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm just so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. Really, truly, I am. I think it's going to be great for everyone to get an understanding of who you are, as well as what we're talking about today. And I'm not going to steal your thunder on this, but can you do me a favor, or do everyone else a favor? What I generally ask is for you to give a little bit of a background so people get an understanding of who you are, where you came from, that sort of thing.
Okay, so my name is Carolyn Sidgwick, as you said, and I live in Qatar.
Right, all the way from Doha.
Yes, exactly. I was born in Sri Lanka, actually, but I was very, very young when we moved to the UK. So I've been brought up and bred, as they say, in the UK. And I came to Doha in 2018 to help turn my sister's business round, which we did. And in 2021, obviously, COVID came along. And around that time, in actual fact, going back a little bit, I had only been in Doha around about 4 or 5 months. And very sadly, we found out that my mother's cancer had come back. And she had been given 6 to 12 months to live. And we were just trying to get our heads around all of that. But she actually only lasted 5 weeks. And from that moment, it was a kind of a turning point in my life. My journey very much changed. I kind of ended up getting so many amazing people come into my life. I ended up turning towards spirituality. I was I would call myself, I was very open to everything, a bit of a junkie, I used to call myself, anything that was different, I would try it. I loved it, energy healing, Reiki, all of that. I would try it. I loved it. And through doing work on myself, I think one of the big points was that I found out that I was looking at basically why I attracted certain relationships into my life. And it transpires from doing a bit of hypnosis and different things that when I was about 6, my mother decided to go back to work, and she asked my sister if she would take me to this lady's house who was going to look after me while she was sleeping, because she was going to do night duty. And I remember this almighty feeling of, oh my God, my mother doesn't love me and want me anymore. And I never grew up with that. I never thought about that, but that's why I attracted these kind of relationships. I'd only had 3 big relationships, and they all finished for different reasons. But I realized the underpinning reason was commitment and security. And so through doing that kind of work, and I was very, very much into Mind Valley. I did Lifebook because I realized that we very good at organizing our careers, but not very good at organizing our lives. So I looked at those 12 areas of my life, and, they always say that when you set an intention even if you do nothing towards it, you naturally gravitate towards it. And I
Hmm.
literally did do that. And one of the areas, the two, I think then John and Missy it was, I actually watched their relationship and they'd been together like 30 years. I saw how special and intense and beautiful it was. And I thought, God, do you know what? I could just feel this yearning for this oneness, this kind of that kind of relationship that we all crave for on an energy level. And I
Hmm.
was in a relationship, one of 10 years, to amazing, lovely, amazing man, but I just felt I needed something deeper than he could give me. So I knew if I was going to be true to myself, I had to let that relationship go, which I found very, very difficult, very
Oh,
difficult.
sure.
And I actually thought at one point, maybe, we might just get back together. We just need to have a bit of a break.
Hmm.
But in actual fact, a year later, at a party, and in actual fact, it is a year today, 5 years today, I met my soulmate at a friend's
Oh,
party.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, for him, it was instant. For me, I kind of wasn't too sure. But it didn't take very long to realize that all the work I had done, all the work I'd done on myself, that he was the one. He was
Hmm.
the one I was supposed to be meeting. And we had the most magical life. I've never experienced anything from an energy point of view. We would laugh every day. We did so much
Hmm.
together. We did charity car rallies around Europe. Every day was a fun day. I mean, it was absolutely magical. And, he wanted to get married that year we met, which was in
Hmm.
2021, but we actually got married in Sri Lanka in 2023.
Oh, wow.
And then literally 9 months later, he had a massive heart attack here in Doha.
Oh.
And yeah, I lost him. And, that has been, we always knew that we were
Hmm.
going to do something special together. We just never dreamt it was going to be in different realms,
Hmm.
because I thought we might actually do something with orphans in Uganda.
Hmm.
But I now realize that the Soul Love Journal, which actually went global as of today, so
Oh, well,
now
congratulations.
anyone, yeah, I know, another very special. See, actual fact, connecting with you. And today is such a special day, not only to connect
Oh,
with you, but
wow.
on two other levels, that it's the day I met my husband and my soulmate, and today that I actually, start going global with the Soul Love Journal. So that was
That's so
the
cool.
beginning, the beginning of the Soul Love Journal.
That's great. So I want to jump into some questions if I can.
Yeah,
And thank you
please
for
do.
sharing that. That's beautiful, sad, and beautiful all at the same
Mm.
time. What I'd like you to do is finish this sentence for me. The thing nobody tells you about grief is,
How painful and deep it is. Um, the big the big lesson for me is that it feels like a really very lonely place, but it doesn't need to be. Um, and for me, the biggest thing was gratitude, because even though I lost my soulmate and it's beyond words. You just go into shock. Your body, your nervous system,
right?
everything goes into shock. But I knew that I had so much still to be grateful for. I was grateful for the fact that we met, grateful that I experienced that kind of relationship, and grateful that I was actually with him, because circumstances can always be so, so different.
Mm,
But that
yes,
doesn't that and I knew from the moment that I didn't bring him back from the hospital, I knew that he was with me. I know that he is with me right now. And I get so many messages, and that is just such a beautiful, beautiful something I am so, so grateful for. But that still doesn't eliminate the pain
sure.
and everything that you have to go through with grief.
Well, what's interesting is that I've, in my research in when I was putting my book together, uh, did I just have a spiritual awakening, or was it something I ate? That's actually our mutual
I love
friend,
that.
Carrie Muller, did the cover for me, and it's right behind me. Um, the interesting thing that I learned was that oftentimes it's a situation where the people that you lose that are so close to you can sometimes be around you even more than they were when they were on earth with us.
Mm.
And it's I think that is a feeling that it's comforting, right? To know that you're not alone
Absolutely.
and that person is
Absolutely.
there and all of those things. And it's just kind of a beautiful thing. So and it's also interesting to me that you felt your partner immediately. I think that's fantastic. So I have another question that it kind of goes hand in hand with your answer. Take me to the lowest moment, the one where you weren't sure you'd come back from it. Where were you standing?
Yeah, I remember coming back from the hospital and thinking that I've got to tell his whole family and contact them.
Oh my gosh.
And then finding the words to try and tell them that, they'd lost their daddy or that they had lost their son was or their best friend even, because I feel I wanted to let all his friends know and not for them to find out through social media or anything. And I don't know. I remember the second day actually seeing somebody messaged me and said, "Oh my God, Carolyn, tell me what's on Facebook isn't true." I was thinking, how on earth has it got onto Facebook? But I then knew I had to do something myself to put it up there, as I was going to be bombarded with questions. But
Sure.
I think one of the most difficult was also that after having told them, you just can't sleep. It's you can't come to terms with your reality. You
Hmm.
you keep thinking you're going to wake up. You keep thinking, how on
It's a
earth can
bad
this be
dream.
happening to me?
Right. Right.
Yeah, how can this be happening to me? I mean, oh my God, you just go through so many emotions. It's just like it's the nervous system. It just, it's like almost shuts down. It's like you're living, but you're not living it. You can't think, you can't
Yes.
function, you can't, it's actually 10 times worse. But a lot of women go through these type of emotions when they go through menopause. Um,
Hmm.
and this is another thing that I'm a big advocate, and I have many ladies group, and we had our monthly meeting last night because there is so much that so many of us go through, but we just don't understand and we don't know. And this is why I am so big to share, everyone to share their stories, no matter what
Hmm.
it is, whatever difficult times, because the more you share, the more you realize you're not the only one. It feels like you're
Right.
the only one because you've
It
never
does.
experienced it before. But if you hear other people's stories, you always find that they are the inspiration to realize, oh, I'm not the only one.
That common thread. And what is it?
Absolutely.
Um, so sometimes when people gather like that, the trauma bonding that occurs. Now, I guess for some, there may be a negative connotation as it relates to trauma bonding. Personally, I don't think that it is a negative thing all the time, because I truly believe that there's a need for something like that. Because as you said, when those things happen, you feel so alone. And so I didn't have my partner or my wife, spouse pass away, but I had my mother pass away, and I had to to make that call to my aunt and my grandmother and my grandfather. So I know what you're talking about that when you mentioned that. And I shared that in my book, and I'm fairly certain that I wasn't nearly as gentle with the delivery as you
Yeah,
as
I
you
think
were.
I'm the same. Absolutely. No,
I
well, I
just
don't know that I was, because I was in
your
shock
dad,
myself, you know?
right? Yes,
Exactly. I remember phoning his daughter, and I didn't even consider the fact that she might be at work. I just phoned her mobile, and she knows I never call her. I
hmm,
rarely ever call her. I'm more of a messenger.
sure.
And I didn't even think where she might be. I didn't even ask her, are you sitting? I didn't, none of that. I wasn't even subtle. I just said, your dad has had a heart attack. And she went, oh, right. Oh, yeah. And I went, and I just said, I think I said, I mean, to be honest, I can't even
Mhm.
really remember, but I
Sure.
think I said, and he's dead. Not like, and I'm so sorry he's passed away. No, because I was sharing that pain with her, and I was still
Absolutely.
in shock myself.
Yep.
It was just, and now I look back and I think, I can't be hard on myself, but I didn't deliver it at all in a very good way. And she was absolutely hysterical and
Sure.
distraught,
And
awful,
there's nothing
awful,
you can do
awful.
about that either.
No, 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 no. So, and
It's
there's no point me digging it all
no,
up now. But
no.
anyway,
Well, no, because you're right. You can't go back and change what happened. And the fact that you were in shock, there's some grace that's given there. And from my point of view, I think that it's easy to beat yourself up after the fact, and it's harder for most people, for that matter, to give themselves grace, because we're
mm,
so prone to picking ourselves apart. So I totally understand that. And when I made the call, it was when that three-way calling was a new deal, because my mom passed in April 11th, 1994. And sometimes it feels like it was a lifetime ago, and sometimes it feels
yeah,
like yesterday, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
But I remember to this day the blood-curdling screams from both my grandmother and my aunt. Yeah, so that still resonates in my mind, for sure. Feeling wiped out after a normal day in public? Always called too sensitive? Take a breath. The sensitivity isn't a flaw. It might just be intuition you were never taught to manage. At the Listening Field Retreat, August 21st to the 23rd at Eaglewood Resort and Spa in Itasca, Gail Alexander shows you how to protect your energy, and Carrie Muller's sound work helps your nervous system finally settle into safety. Space is limited. Click the link below or visit thechillcrew.org/the listening retreat. So I'm curious, because soul love, was there one moment that soul love was born, a real before and after, or did it just kind of creep up on you?
So, from the moment that he passed, I knew I needed to work on my psychic abilities, because I know we all have them, but I really didn't. In fact, I forgot I had done a course about 3 years previously, and mine was of a knowing, which I think is one of the
Mhm.
most difficult in some way, because you don't trust your knowing. Um,
Not at
but
all. Not at
uh,
all. We're
yeah,
skeptics.
yeah, absolutely. So I knew I needed to work on my psychic abilities. And 15 hours after he passed, I got my first message via a friend.
Mhm.
And then about 24 hours later, I got my second message of explaining why he passed, and our purpose together, basically. This was
Really?
always what had been planned, that we've had many lives. We always knew we'd have many lives together, because we always felt like, if anything, we were only actually together, Jim, 2.5 years, right? But we felt like we've been
Right.
together a lifetime. So I actually don't feel like I've been robbed, because I actually feel like I have been with
Lived
him
every
so much
second.
long. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, even my sisters who've been married 30 years, they say, do you know what? You've done more in your 2.5 years than we've done in our 30 years, because we absolutely.
Right.
And he took photos, videos of everything, everywhere we went, so I have just so many
That's so
memories of
cool.
everything. Yeah, yeah. So I just knew that I needed to work on those psychic abilities so that I could feel this connection. Now,
Hmm.
my psychic abilities aren't fully there yet, but I can feel him now. I've smelt him, and I know my
Oh,
knowing. And I just get it reaffirmed all the time, all the time, all the time. And it's super special when now I can go out and have lunch or dinner with somebody. If somebody's psychic, I can tell, and they don't look at me, they look at beside me or above me. And I always know
mhm.
they're looking at him because he's always around me. So
Interesting.
what happened was that from the moment he passed, I was just smothered. No, smothered isn't, well, in a beautiful way. I was just supported straight away by my amazing family, my friends, my community. And I could see such abundance coming into my life. And I used to
Mm.
write it down that somebody had bought me breakfast to make sure I'm eating. Somebody sent me flowers. Somebody had taken me out. Somebody had bought me coffee. Somebody
Hmm.
had come round to visit me. I would write everything down. And then because I was trying to work on my psychic abilities, but I have signs for him. I knew my signs for him. And, I would write them down every single day, a sign. Every time I
Hmm.
had a message, I'd write that down. And then I started doing automated writing. Are you
Ooh,
familiar with that?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And for me, I write letters to him. I even actually, the first time I did it, I actually did write a question. And the question was, how long is this pain going to last for? And
Ooh,
I remember writing letters to him. It just gets out all those emotions and pain that you're going through. And then I wanted to dream so badly about him. And I did used to dream about him, and I used to write my dreams down because you know how quickly you forget about them.
absolutely.
And then I would, I just did lots of different things, and I found that I had journals of journals.
Hmm.
And then uh, I think it was the following year. Oh, that's right. It was New Year, and one of my messages from him was to go and reflect. So I went to Bali to this amazing retreat, and it was not a retreat. It was like a boutique retreat. Like
Hmm.
only got 6 bedrooms. You just went along, and
Oh,
if
wow.
other people were there, they were there. If they weren't, but there were about 4 of us at the same time as me, and I took all my journals, and I read through every single one of them, and I wrote down every person I had met, every course I had done, everything I had done. And it wasn't till I did that I realized, oh my gosh, how far I had come in just 1 year. And it isn't till you
Yeah.
reflect and you can appreciate where you were and where you are. If I'd never
Right.
have done that, or if he'd not told me to do that, I would never have appreciated and given myself credit for how far I had come. So then I realized, oh my God, maybe I should put this all together into
Hmm.
one journal to support other people on their journey. And that's what I did.
Excellent. So you brought up writing. So there's a natural question that occurs to me, and that's, let's say someone just lost the person that they love most, and they're staring at a blank page in front of them. What's the very first thing they should write?
So, I used to wake up regularly in the middle of the night. And when you're not fully awake, but you're not asleep,
Yes.
this is when you just
That's how
need
I
to
spend
let
most of my
your
days,
pen.
by the way.
uh,
I feel like I'm sort of awake, but not.
Not
Anyway,
awake,
all right.
exactly. Well, this is when you're in that best alpha mode of just letting your pen flow. Whatever words come into your head, just write them, you know?
Hmm.
Um, if you repeat words, repeat sentences, it doesn't matter. Just 5-10 minutes, let your pen flow. I put it down, wake up in the morning, and I was quite shocked at what I'd written because I had forgotten. But, for someone, when you're in such a deep place, whether it be anger, whether it be denial, whether it be acceptance, it doesn't matter. Just get those words on the paper. You're going through so much at that point. Sometimes, if you can get to a point of writing, fantastic. But sometimes, it takes a little while even to get to that point because, there's so much where we are feeling, we all go through it. Right. Well, if you're not here, I don't want to be here. And it's that denial and that anger and the what ifs and what if I'd done this and the guilt and the blame and there's so much that goes through, and it's an automated response. And this is the other thing. It's like with menopause and it's like with grief. I want women to understand why they're thinking, why they're feeling that way, because it's an automatic response that the body does. Your hormones, when your hormones go all over the place, this is what happens. And it's people not understanding that. And when you start to understand why, then you can start getting a little bit more understanding of yourself.
Sure. And so I'm going to bring up an obvious point here that, and I understand that you're geared more towards women because you're a woman, but what do you say to a man? Because I can tell you with the utmost certainty, there aren't a lot of men that journal. I'm one of the few that I know that journals.
Journal, yeah.
So what do you say to somebody like that? And because it's not menopause, people refer to it as menopause.
No, exactly. But it's still a man. It is all the same for all of us. The reason I say, I like to emphasize the whole menopause thing because of what women's go through, but men go through it too. For on the menopause side, not to the extreme of women, but grief, of course they do. And it's understanding what the body is going through. It's about being understanding. It's about self-love. It's about nurturing yourself, because I promise you, the more that you look after yourself and come from a place of self-love, the easier it is to navigate everything that you go through in grief.
Okay.
If you're going to start, when we don't practice or don't understand what self-love is, and you're putting yourself down because you're feeling like this and then you're feeling like that, and you don't understand why you're feeling like that, and you're angry and you start getting bitter, and you start dealing with things in a very different way than if you came from a place of nurturing it. It's like if you had a friend that was going through grief, going through whatever difficult times, you're going to be there for them, supporting them, holding their hand through it. Well, do you know what? You need to do the same to yourself. Your body just goes through so much trauma of just accepting your reality that, yes, you do need a massage. Yes, you do need to give yourself time out. Sometimes the tears, your head feels like it wants to burst out of the brain, burst out of your head, right? You need to give yourself a break of just trying to maybe watch a film, something that distracts you just for an hour, and don't feel guilty about it, because you feel guilty you haven't thought about them for 2 minutes. You feel guilty that you've been laughing. You feel guilty you're having to get on with your life. There is so much emotion around grief that everyone experiences, but you just don't realize when you've never experienced it before.
I understand full well what you're talking about and describing. One of the things that often happens when someone passes is you tell them something. You have these words or like this pat sentence, but what I'm curious to know is, what's the biggest lie we tell grieving people? The thing that everyone says that actually makes it worse.
Tell you what it is. I know what time is a healer.
Yeah, that is bullshit. that
Do you know
is
what?
bullshit.
The thing is, we all know actually time is a healer, right? It gets lighter and lighter and lighter. The pain never goes away. You just learn
True.
to live and navigate your way through it. But when
Mask the
you're
pain.
going through, exactly. But when
Yeah.
you're going through it, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I have to think, you've got to think of it like when I found out that my husband wasn't coming back, right? And where I am now, because I've got to that point of acceptance, it's a different pain. Okay, so
Mhm.
time is a healer, but when you're going through it, that's the last thing you want to hear.
Right. Give it some time.
Oh my
Walk
God.
it off. Walk it. Rub some dirt on it or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Well, see,
absolutely.
and I'll go to the counter position on that with men, and and this just from my perspective, we're told and taught and trained at an
Be
early age
strong.
to yes, and not show emotion, and
Absolutely.
and don't you cry. I'll give you something to
Yeah,
cry about. One of
yeah,
those
yeah.
deals. So
Absolutely,
it,
absolutely. And you
it's
feel
yeah,
like you've
it's
got to be
interesting
strong for the family and you've got to be there for the family, because if we're
for
we're
sure.
talking about a grandmother, or we're talking even about a spouse and you've got children, you know,
Yes,
when do you have time to grieve when you've got young children, you know,
when they're
and you're
all
feeling
asleep.
the pain, their pain as well as your
Right.
own pain, you know. I mean,
Mhm.
I just can't even bear to think, but you know, it happens to many people, but it is just so important you don't park your grief. And you know, everybody needs some sort of support somewhere at some point. You know, we all think, oh
Yes.
no, I don't need any support. I don't, but I'm sorry, you
Yep.
do. But you've got to find the right support for you. Because I went and did a bit of counseling because I
Mhm.
thought, okay, I think I'm probably going to need some counseling. It didn't work
Sure.
for me. You know, I'm telling the counselor my life story. That wasn't doing anything for me. But the moment I had someone I knew well gave me a was it RTT, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah, 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 yeah.
The tapping.
Yeah, yep. Oh,
The moment
EFT, EFT.
EFT, thank you, thank you. The moment that I think there was another one as well, similar. But anyway, the moment that I did that, it wasn't. I'm
Hypnotherapy.
sure it's the tapping that did all help and everything, but
Mhm.
it's the questions she asked me. That's what absolutely, you know, it's a bit like that question you asked me at the beginning. You've got to ask something that's really deep, right? That gets
Mhm.
this emotion out that you hadn't thought of. And she asked me, like, what do I miss about him most? And where
Sure.
in my body do I feel that, you know? And, you
Mhm.
know, through the whole session, it made me realize that I was finding it very difficult to accept that he'd gone. I mean, you know, you get on with things. I remember one day coming back into my bedroom and I've never heard myself cry like a baby. You know, we don't
Mm.
cry like a baby. You know, you get tears, but you don't actually
Sure.
hear a noise come out of your mouth. Yes, I started hearing a noise come out of my mouth, but then when you actually hear yourself, where, you know, like when a child just is like, there's no noise because it's that deep,
Yeah.
you know. That was what I was experiencing. And you know, sometimes it is so powerful, the last thing you want to do but to look at yourself in the mirror, because you've got to see this pain come out, you've got to embrace this pain. um and that's what I found really worked for me. So everyone is different. You've got to find something that works for you. There are so many light workers now. I had another friend message me and she did some remote work for my body and the
Mhm.
shock and everything that my body was going through. And I did actually feel shifts. I did actually feel lighter. She did it 2 to 3 times for me. And that really did, it worked well. And I'm wanting to work with her moving forward, because I'm looking at doing some grief mentoring coaching, like a course
Mhm.
as such, but
Sure.
to work with other people to help people in their own grief journey. So whether someone's parked their grief and haven't faced it for years, or whether it's very, very raw, you know, we've all got to do our own healing in some way. It's not something you can just walk away from. And you're right, men particularly find it very, very difficult to get in touch with that emotion.
Yeah, it's just something you're not allowed to do. So if, let's say grief could talk. So if grief could talk, if it could actually say what it wants from us, what do you think it'd say?
I would say that it's always teaching us a lesson, that whatever happens, we've all got to go through it. Okay. And there are lots of different levels of grief. Okay. Because we all have different relationships and we all have different circumstances. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the end of the day, you normally, if it's very, very deep, it's going to be the beginning of a new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And, you always find any trauma that anyone goes through in their lives, we can even look back on our lives, any hard times we have been through takes us onto another chapter, another journey, another road in a different way. And it always brings us to our purpose. And unfortunately, that's what we're here to experience, the pain, when we lose someone. But that is the price of loving someone, isn't it? That's what they say. It's the price of loving someone. And, although it is so difficult to navigate, I think we'd all rather have that than having never experienced love ever, But you can't tell somebody that when they go through grief. But I do believe that we're all here to experience, and to master. This is what we're all here to master ourselves, aren't we?
We're definitely works in progress, that's for sure.
Totally.
So, as far as grief's concerned, and we're talking about the loss of loved ones, right? Do you feel that there's a difference in, let's say that someone doesn't die, but a relationship dies and you move on?
Yeah.
Do you find it to be the same process and the same?
Absolutely.
Everything?
I think that's what people need to understand. There are so many different forms of grief. Okay. Some of them can be very quiet and bubbling up on the surface, like somebody maybe had miscarriage. Okay. They've dealt with it, but maybe they need to still embrace and heal. Then you've got, I actually didn't realize until probably actually all of this has come to that I grieved my first marriage. I was married for 10 years. I found out that he was had many affairs, shall we say. And I had to walk away from that relationship. I didn't want to. I thought I was going to grow old with him. I thought he was going to be in my life forever, and then I had to get my head round, oh my God, I'm not going to know what he's doing every day. I'm not going to know what he's thinking, where he's been. I'm not going to grow old with him. I had all these emotions. It took me 3 years to get over that relationship because I went through all of the anger, denial, what ifs, everything, So yes, people do it when they leave their countries. They, there are just so many forms of grief, so many. And I just don't think that people appreciate it and understand that all this emotion that comes up when they lose friendships and
yes, friendships too. That you can put that to that bucket as well with loss and grief. Yeah. So I do see a counselor, therapist, and it's been helpful for me, and not for the loss of my mother or my father or my friends or anything like that that have passed. But when we're talking about relationships and things of that nature, it's helpful. And there does seem to be a grieving process, even when you could be in the relationship, still be in the relationship, and go through a loss. And it's the loss of emotion, of connection, and all of those things. So there's there's a lot there for
Absolutely.
sure.
The other form is, when somebody goes through Alzheimer's or dementia. Can you imagine?
Oh
You
yeah.
know, they're there, you're looking after them, but that's not the person you married, you know?
Hmm.
I
Yes,
mean, I just, my heart just breaks when you see and hear all those different stories again, and that is another form of grief.
absolutely is, for sure. So tell me about the one message from a stranger that made you realize soul love had become bigger than you.
Oh, well, I think I'm still working on that, but I think the fact that it went global today is a massive stepping stone to know the potential of. I always said when I did it, when you laugh at yourself, I said, "Oh, well, I'm going to sell a million
Every
copies."
day.
And
Yes. Yeah.
I can see that it's more and more achievable because I just know that this is part of my purpose. I
Hmm.
just know that I've had lovely feedback. I get contacted nearly every week where somebody say, "Oh, Carolyn, can I get a journal because a friend of mine is going through a difficult time. A friend of mine has lost their mother. A friend of mine has lost her husband." You know,
Mm.
now I actually get to hear every week of other people's losses. It just breaks my heart. And
I was
I
just going to
feel
ask you how that
like
makes you feel.
I get very emotional, if I'm honest with you. I don't feel it brings up my own. I think it's the pain of knowing what that person is
Empathic
going through.
pain. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, anyway, yeah. I just feel it. I feel it and I know. But also I know that when someone's going through that, you can't say, "I know what you're going through," because then you're almost demeaning
Dismissing it.
their
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's like, get over it. Yeah, we've all been through it. No, no, you've got to nurture. And we all go through it in a very different way. And we all experience it in a
Hmm.
very different way. And there's no right way and there's no wrong way. All I want is to be able to hold people's hands, be able to support them, and be able to make them realize they are not alone and that it doesn't have to be a lonely journey,
Hmm.
and to look after themselves. They just have to look after themselves.
And going back to the self-love and things that we had discussed previously, I think that sometimes, especially, uh, you know, time heals all wounds type of deal, that throwaway comment, you lose sight of the fact that you still need to do that. And it becomes, let's say that you don't do it early, it becomes increasingly difficult to
Yeah,
do that as time
totally.
goes on, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's interesting. That's human, I suppose.
Well, because
I've
we all know it's like the inner child, isn't it? We have always have
Right.
so much work to do with the inner child because there's emotions from our childhood that we are bringing up in our
Hmm.
adulthood, and it isn't till you heal those or even understand them, because a lot of the time you have got no clue why you react in a certain way. You don't know why
No.
certain things trigger you.
Right.
Sometimes it can be your values, but why are your values your values? Sometimes it's to do with childhood
Hmm.
experiences, trauma, all of that. We all have work to do, and it's about supporting one another. And
Right.
now, more and more, there are so many light workers and amazing people here because at the end of the day, even as a light worker, everyone has their own work to do as well.
That's true. And it's interesting. I over the past few weeks, I've been experiencing w- something different. And it's different from an awakening process. And I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, Nate Scripture, and I was telling him about that feeling. So I'm empathic, and I know that, but it's become hypersensitized or hypersensitive right now. It, to the point where I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I'll be driving down the road and there's like a dead animal in the road, and it's like, oh, I can feel that
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
them. And I said, and I know that people can go through like a reawakening process. I've in my research for the book and everything else, I've read about that.
Hmm.
And there was something that was brought up not only by him but by another friend as well, that is an ascension where you're leveling up. It's not necessarily a reawakening or going through that awakening process again, but there's a leveling up of some of those gifts or senses right now. And
Hmm.
I don't know why I said that, other than the fact that it just kind of reminded me when you were talking about your
Mm.
heart aches when you're talking to, or you receive
Mm.
those messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'd be curious to know, was that an awakening process for you when that happened? Did that really start, or was that the catalyst for what I can assume is an awakening, because you went through those stages of an awakening where you're seeking, the information and knowledge and all of those things?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say definitely. I think, it, I'm a big believer also that, people come into your life.
Mm-hmm.
You've come into my life. It's just when you get connected with people, it's all for a reason in the most beautiful way. And I think, since that part, it's all been a massive awakening. This is
Mm-hmm.
another level for me. I've done work on myself since 2018. Prior to that, I had no clue.
Sure. Right. Well,
I
right.
had no clue about all of this. So it's been a very long journey, but as time has gone on, it's opened my eyes, and I've experienced more, and I've seen more, and I've met more amazing people. Yeah, yeah,
Well, you
it's
talk about
beautiful.
universal consciousness when you say that we're all in this together and we need other people. That's
Mm,
essentially what we're talking about when you say that, because we
yeah,
we
yeah,
all are connected. And I think the sooner we realize that, the better we'll all be. But that's
yeah,
just my
yeah.
my
Well, it's
theory.
so true, but it's even the fact that, Matt's with me and I get messages from him
Hmm.
and everything gets reaffirmed. I mean, uh, it just blows my mind. I still, and I know there's so much as human beings we find so difficult to get our head round, that acceptance and that.
Hmm.
But, even the other day, I've got this group that I'm part of on Facebook, and they do
Hmm.
little lives and they do cards. And I went, oh yes, I've got to get on there. And this lady who started doing a card for me, she goes, oh, Matt's come in again. And she said, oh, he's telling me it's your birthday. It was my birthday the following day.
Wow.
And when that things like that happen, I think, wow, this
Yeah,
blows me away, because it
it
just
really does.
reaffirms, because you always think you've always got that little bit of maybe it's just
Yeah.
coincidental.
Healthy
And we're
skepticism. That's
always,
what I always
yeah,
say.
that's the word. Always, always. I think even though we know, we still always have that tiny little bit of it. And even
Hmm.
though I know it, I still have, but that's why every time things get affirmed to me, and like somebody might say something I don't even know that's psychic, and they see him or say, it just lights me up and lifts me up, because I think it's incredible and just mind blowing.
It is pretty cool. So
Absolutely.
I'd like to know what losing someone taught you that being happy never could.
Oh, that's interesting. Say that question again.
What did losing someone teach you that being happy never could?
Right. Happy couldn't. Um, oh my gosh, that is quite intense, that question. Oh my gosh. What did it? Oh, I don't know where to begin on that one. Um, Tell me again. Tell me again. Tell me
What
that one
did
one more time.
what did losing someone teach you that being happy never could? And I can give you a little insight from my perspective,
Yeah, tell me.
and that is that they're never far away. You can always call them in, and there's not the negativity that is sometimes associated with a person through, your human relationship.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, well, all of that is totally and utterly true. I think it's also the fact that that love never leaves you. It's
Hmm.
always within you. I think that's probably what it's taught me, that, when before, and being happy and having that love and day-to-day life, this is another level of love. You
Hmm.
know, they say that when we pass and go on to the next realm, that love is just immense, immense, like we can't even imagine it, right?
Right, right.
So I think what this is, what it does, that having lost him is, it's though we thought our love couldn't get any deeper. And this is usually, well, always one of my messages from him, is that we thought our love couldn't get any deeper, and it just always does. It gets
Hmm.
deeper and deeper. Our connection gets deeper. I can feel him. I can smell him. And I know in the next few years, it's going to get even stronger, because at the moment, I can't get my own messages, but I know it's going to get to a point when we're going to be totally in tune, and I'm going to get everything. And I can't wait for that day. But
It's
I'm
coming.
very impatient for it. He knows I am.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I know it is. But
are you?
yeah, it's got to be that, hasn't it? You're right.
It'll. Like I said, it's coming. It's coming soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, are you still grieving anything right now? Like
Yeah,
today,
it
even
never
with
goes.
everything behind you?
You know what? You never stop grieving. You never stop grieving. I mean, it's like earlier, when you touch on something you haven't thought about,
Hmm.
or even when I just come back from Sri Lanka, I did a retreat,
Hmm.
and they asked me to do my journal. There were 12 ladies, and they all were given a journal as part of the retreat, which was beautiful.
That's
And
very cool.
normally I talk quite heavily about the journal, how to use it, go
Hmm.
through the different sections, because that's why it's unique. It's not just a journal with the same pages. It's 15 sections, get you to look at all areas of your life, ask you questions that maybe you've never even thought about yourself, gets you to look at vision board, like what planning your life, everything I've
Hmm.
spoken to you about. It's got all those different. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to actually talk more about me and my journey. And, through doing that, I could feel myself getting quite emotional. I kept it together, but I was still crying. They could see that emotional. And
It's
what
natural.
it actually, yeah, it is. But so it's not parked for sure. It still brings stuff up. And I think also what it does is that most people have grieved at some point. It was bringing their own grief up. So, do you know what? Every single one of us were in tears, every single one of us. And it was a beautiful moment for us to share, you know, share, I was sharing my story, the Soul Love Journal,
Right.
how it can help them no matter what they're going through. So, yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, no, I don't believe you will ever, it will always catch up with you some days. And although they're far and few between now,
Hmm.
you know, I remember actually 2 weeks ago, I was on a call with somebody. I was looking at doing this course, and she wanted to find out about me. I don't know why, but all of a sudden, the amount of times I've told people my story, and I got emotional, and I went, "Oh, I don't believe I'm getting emotional. I'm so sorry." She goes, "Oh, please, But
That's
you
great.
don't know. You just don't know. I remember, a couple of years ago, I had to be very careful each day. I know I could talk to some people, and some days I
Sure.
couldn't. But then when I could talk to people, I then felt I seemed like I was heartless, and people would probably think that I'm a bit hard and didn't care. because
Ah,
that also comes to your mind because I didn't
sure.
cry. It's just honestly,
Yeah.
it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster that it will never disappear.
Vision boards, affirmation. Still stuck? Here's what nobody tells you. It's hard to manifest from a body still stuck in survival mode. Sometimes the vision has to wait for the body to catch up. At the Listening Field Retreat, August 21st to the 23rd at Eaglewood Resort and Spa, Julie Grant clears old family patterns. Carrie Muller uses sound to bring your body back online, and Jim Allstott shows you what it takes to turn intention into something you live. You don't need another notebook. You need to feel different. Visit thechillcrew.org/the listening retreat. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to jump into our musical questions, okay?
Oh, lovely. Okay.
Because I think this is important. For the person listening right now who's barely holding on, what do you need them to hear?
I need them to hear that they really there is there is there is light, but it's a long it can be a long journey. That I really need them to look after themselves. Really, honestly, it makes such a difference when you just give yourself that grace, give yourself that time, embrace those emotions, and ride the waves. Some days are unbearable, but it's something we all have to go through. But the more you can look after yourself, nurture yourself, self-love, I promise, I just know that it will just be that tiny, tiny little bit easier and lighter for you to navigate.
Wonderful.
And the big thing is, pleased to know that you're not alone, that it is totally
Mm,
normal to feel the way that you are feeling. It really is. It doesn't feel like it, but it is. But some people need to know that. They need to know that, so because a lot of people go, what am I? I think I'm actually going off my head. I actually think I am
right.
actually going mad. Like, I think I'm having a breakdown. Well, sometimes people are very close to that. They really are, which is why you have to look after yourself. Try and do things that would normally light you up, whether it be a massage, going to see a friend, watch a film, and try and switch off just for an hour or two.
Hmm.
Read a book, go into nature, all the things that we're told we should do anyway. You know, go and give somebody a hug, talk, don't, you know, actually, I remember that morning the following morning, I hadn't slept, and my sister said, "You need to come out of your bedroom." And I went, "No, I just want to stay here. I can't face seeing anybody. I don't want to see anyone." She said, "Carolyn, I'm going to bring you home. I'm going to come and pick you up." And I said, "Okay, I'll be ready in a couple of hours." So she arrived, and I was on a share and in the villa, and there
Hmm.
was five of us living in the same villa. And I went downstairs and I wasn't in the space to appreciate how anybody else was feeling. I was just trying to cope and bring my own
Sure.
emotions together. And we sat in the garden and we never left because we ended up
Mm.
just talking and talking about him. And the more you talk about your loved one, you think it's going to be too painful. And it doesn't matter if the tears come. But if you're sharing your pain with somebody else that loves them as deeply, you know, it's another way of healing. It really
That's,
is. And
I was going to
I
say
can look
healing.
back and I can look back now and say, we would laugh about things, the silly things that happened and did and that that we experienced, but I realize how therapeutic. It's the last thing you want to do, but it is so therapeutic just to share your pain.
Well, thank you for sharing all of your emotions, your thoughts,
Oh,
and processes as it relates to the book and the journal. So now we're going to switch gears and we're going to go to the musical questions.
yeah.
And, I always say this, that I believe music is the tie that binds us all together and that everyone has a soundtrack.
Yeah.
that accompanies their life. All right. So we'll start with question number 1. What was the first song you fell in love with from the radio, or you can remember saying, "Oh, I can't wait to hear that song again"?
Well, I remember the first song that I actually ever bought, the record. Hey, we can say records.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, we can.
My first record, would you believe it or not, was "You're the One That I Want" by John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John.
From Greece. Nice. Nice. That's great. I love that. I love that. So when you were growing up, did you and your family have songs that you would just belt out if you were on a road trip?
Yeah. So my dad was really into jazz, loved his jazz. My mum kind of loved her jazz, a little bit of country. We were kind of exposed to a bit of everything, really. And because my sisters were 6 and 7 years older than me, I kind of listened a lot to their own music, like the Bee Gees, Beach Boys, all that, Supertramp, all of that. But one song, I love that question. One song I remember, because I used to, you mentioned about being in the car, right?
Mhm.
And I used to drive a lot around with my aunt and my cousin around Ireland. And I remember my best friend in the UK with her mum. We used to go to the beach. And one song that we always used to sing was "Show Me the Way to Go Home"
That's
by Irving
great.
King. Yeah.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's a first for sure. It is.
I'm sure
There's
it
no
is.
doubt. So is "You're the One That I Want." By the way, I forgot to mention that. So when you were a senior in high school, and I don't know how it was necessarily graded out where you grew up, but before you were to go to university, what was a song that you and your friends would be driving around or walking around or causing trouble, screaming at the top of your lungs?
So, two songs that came to mind. One was, do you remember "The Eye of the Tiger"?
Oh, yes. I sure do.
And
Survivor, right?
oh my God. And the other one was "Enola Gay," Orchestral Movers in the Dark.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I love that one,
Wow.
actually. I
Wow,
love
wow,
that
wow.
song.
I haven't heard that in
No, I know. You've got
forever.
to put it on because that always lifts me up, that one.
No, so I listen to people's playlists quite a lot before I put them out or we release the episode. So I have that opportunity. I kind of
Ah, brilliant.
spoil myself with that. But so
Brilliant.
did your musical tastes change at all from high school to university?
Yeah, I think they did because I remember I really got into Christopher Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I used to cycle a lot. I used to cycle to college, I remember, and I used to listen to that. The other one that I remember I got so into and I still love to this day was "Blue Monday" by New Order.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I
Wow.
love that. And I loved Depeche Mode. I
Oh,
also
yeah.
loved Phil Collins, Tina Turner, and it's still to this day, my friend and I know most of the songs. There's not many songs I know the words to, but for some reason, Supertramp. I still Breakfast in America.
Yes.
That was a
Yes.
big one.
Yes. I remember that very well. That was quite the album. Breakfast in America.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was.
And you mentioned Depeche Mode, so I was in the same time
Yeah, I remember
frame.
going to see them in concert.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah,
I
and
was
Madness,
fortunate
actually. I'm
enough
sort
to.
of really into Madness, but I did go and see them in concert because it was always just so happy tuned, you know?
Yeah, there's something about going, and I talk about this regularly too, because I think Dave Grohl is the master at this, because he knows the exact beat to get the crowd popping up and
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
when he wants that energy from the crowd. They come up with that song, and
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
gets everybody going. But that
Absolutely.
live music, and that's the example that I use too when I talk about we're connected. The music is the tie that binds us all together, because you don't know anybody else necessarily around you
No. No.
outside of maybe if you went with
Exactly. It
someone.
brings so many people, and it's a
It
lifesaver for
does.
some people, isn't it?
It
Really is, because they just turn
absolutely
to their
is.
music. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And you know, the other thing I loved and still do now, my little secret, like you said,
Mhm.
oh, actually, I should have put that down, really, thinking
For
about it.
your guilty pleasure
Status
song.
quo. Status quo. I love status quo. Well, I can do all the moves to status quo.
Wow, wow. Um, how about songs that get the juices flowing? Want
Oh, right.
you to help you get out and crush your day.
Well, I'm going to tell you that one of them is, well, I used to walk to this song. It is By Your Side, Calvin Harris, right?
I
And
didn't know that.
just lights me up. It's just got a great beat, and I used to walk to it. And then when that passed, I hadn't done my walking for about a week or two. And I
Mhm.
remember a friend taking me to, I needed to go to one of the shops to sort something out. And I decided I was going to walk home. I didn't want to lift back. I wanted to walk home because I do power
Mhm.
walking. And I hadn't listened to my music for a long time. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not really one of these that listens to the lyrics. I tend to just listen to the music, and I'm there.
Gotcha.
And the first song that came up out of all of my listing
Mhm.
was By Your Side. And I knew it was a
Oh,
message
wow.
from Matt. I knew when you wake up in the morning, I'll be by your side. And I knew that, but it was just him affirming that he always is with me. And I just remember just
That's cool.
crying, crying, and crying while
Yeah.
I was walking. And then do you know what? I can't remember now, but I had about 3 songs all in a row, so relevant because I was listening to the words and I just knew there were messages from him. It was just beautiful.
And that's so funny. It's not funny, but I find it compelling that the spirit reaches out
Oh
in those
gosh, yes,
ways. And it
absolutely,
happens at just the right time. It it,
absolutely
it
does.
always does. And I love that, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so what I'm going to do is I'd definitely like to get your list, but because we're running out of time, I'm going
Sure.
to go ahead and jump to my favorite question, which is sometimes you hear a song that just stops you in your tracks, and it sounds as though the song was either written specifically for you or by you. What's that
Yeah.
song?
So the song for me, actually, I put down for both of your questions that you put, the last 2 questions, because I just think they're very similar, and this one has so much meaning for me.
Mm-hmm.
So just about a week before my journal, I went to print for the first time, and I was going to do a couple of workshops to see
Mm-hmm.
how they went. I had 100 to printed to start with. I was walking again and power walking, and I decided to play what I have a new list called my Matty list. And my Matty
Oh, how
list
cool.
literally are all the songs that I feel he's talking to me, that they're relevant, right? And all of a sudden, I started getting a few songs that I didn't recognize. I thought, oh, hang on, I don't ever remember putting this into this list,
Hmm.
right? And this song came on, and I want you to listen to this song, because the moment it starts, you feel like you're stopped in your tracks and you feel like, oh my God, I've got to listen to this, right? I've never heard it before, right? I know Westlife. I'm sure you've heard of Westlife, right? But
No.
have you not? Oh, Westlife is
Yeah.
quite big in the UK,
Okay.
right? But this song, and when I ask my friends, none of us have heard of this song, right? It's called I'll see you again.
Oh,
And
wow.
oh my God, the words, it is like they have been written for me. And
Wow. Love that.
I just wellowed, but I actually did use that song as part of my presentation. And then I
That's
did the other,
beautiful.
and then I did um, the I think you said you didn't know that once, the By Your Side by Calvin Klein, to lift
Hmm.
everybody up afterwards, because
Hmm.
the Westlife was quite like very emotional, very emotional. For anyone that's lost someone, it's very emotional. It's beautiful, like it has been written for us, right?
Mm.
I don't know where that song ever, where it came in the charts, but that should be a number one. But no,
Right.
it should. It's beautiful, beautiful. So I did that one, and then I did Calvin Klein to lift everybody up afterwards, because that also was one of the songs from Matt, so it was relevant. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful song. Listen to those words.
I,
Let me tell you, that will be your mummy talking to you when you listen to that song.
you know what? I will definitely listen to, I don't know if you can see her or not.
Oh, look at that bundle of joy. Is it a
She's,
Labrador?
no, she is 40% Great Pyrenees. So she's got 5
Oh,
toes
wow.
and back.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. And
How old is she?
she is just 5 months old. She'll be 6 months old the
Oh,
26th of July.
oh,
But
wow.
she's something, that's for sure.
What's her name?
Athena.
Athena. Oh my
Yes,
gosh, Athena. That's a very
Athena.
powerful name.
Yeah, well, she's a pretty powerful presence.
She is your angel.
Yeah, she is. You know, my
Yeah.
I have a tattoo of, I can't turn my arm that you can see it.
Oh,
Like, there we go. Of
uh,
the paw from my rot, who we put down.
oh,
Uh,
do you have a Rottweiler?
I did.
I had a
And,
Rottweiler.
and she was amazing. We put her down
Oh,
312 in 2025, 310,
mm.
excuse me, 2025. And waited a while to get Athena. She's a rescue. And it was just, as soon as I saw her, I was just like, okay, I need
She's
to
the one.
have her. I need to have her in my life. So that's why she's here.
That's so beautiful. That's so lovely.
So
Look, see, that's another thing we could talk about, tattoos, because I've always been anti-tattoos, but
really.
I had mine, which was
Oh,
Matt's
wow.
handwriting.
That's wonderful. That is
Yeah,
so
and then I
cool.
did another one, because these are all my signs.
Oh, wow. Look at
Yeah, see,
that.
because number 8, today is the 8th. We met on the 8th. 8 was always relevant to us.
Wow.
And then, but if you look at it, when I show you that way, it's eternity. That's
Right.
yeah,
That's what I thought
exactly.
it was at first. But yeah, when you say
It's both. It's
8,
number 8 for me, but it's
mhm,
eternity to you
that's fantastic.
because it's
Well, when you
both.
look at it, for sure, when you look at it yourself, it is an 8. That's
Uh,
fantastic. Yeah, I've got a few, and I'll probably get a few more
they always have
coming up.
meaning, don't they?
They do for me, and I think they do for a lot of people. And then sometimes
Yeah,
people just get
absolutely
them
do.
because they
Yeah,
want one, and that's cool too. Whatever
yeah,
floats
yeah,
somebody's
yeah.
boat is awesome. Oh, hey, nope,
Beautiful.
sorry, stop, come here, right here, come here.
Bless her. Athena.
Okay. Oh, she, there you go,
There
baby.
she go, like this.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close us out, and
Yep.
I'd like to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your
Oh, not at
openness
all. Thank you for
and
having me. I
sharing.
so appreciate it.
It's been wonderful. Well, it's just about time to cue the music for today's episode. And around here, that's my favorite part of the job. I'm Jim Allstott, and before we drop the needle, 2 quick things. First, Carolyn, thank you for being here today. And could you let our listeners know the best way to get in touch with you?
Yes, certainly. So I'm on YouTube, which is Soul Love Journal, and on Instagram, which is soul.8.love.
Perfect. And you'll find all of that plus a link to today's playlist right in the show notes. Second, if this episode found you at the right moment, the best thank you is simple. Like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss what's next. All right, my Drop the Needle posse, like Billy Joel says, from the highs to the lows. That brings us to the end of our show. Until next time, this is Jim Allstott wishing you infinite health, infinite happiness, and the perfect playlist for your life. Thank you again for being the best part of us. Catch you next time.